All right. Ready to dive deep into how to win friends and influence people. This one's been on my list for a while.
Yeah, it's a classic. And, it's one of those books that, well, it stood the test of time.
For sure. I'm excited to unpack some of the wisdom in here with you. Like, how do these principles actually work? You know?
Well, Carnegie really breaks it down. I mean, he spent years studying successful people.
Right, from all walks of
Huh.
life, right? Like, this wasn't just looking at, say, business leaders or politicians.
Yeah. I mean, you've got everyone from, presidents to even Al Capone.
Oh, hold on. Al Capone. What's the connection
Well,
there?
one of the core ideas is this universal desire for significance.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Everyone wants to feel important.
Exactly. And even someone like Capone, as tough as he was, still craved that validation.
Huh. But, like, how did Carnegie see that playing out? I mean, Capone's an extreme example.
Well, he uses all sorts of examples, actually. Like, remember the story about Mrs. McKinley, President McKinley's wife?
Refresh my memory.
She was constantly demanding attention. Like, she even wanted her husband in the room during her dental appointments. Can you imagine?
Oh, wow. That's intense. Talk about needing to feel important.
Right. And then, contrast that with someone like Charles Schwab. He was a titan of industry back then, built Bethlehem Steel.
Okay, yeah, I've heard the name. Super successful guy.
Yeah, and he attributed a lot of his success to, get this, praising his workers,
Bro.
making them feel valued.
Really? Seems kind of basic, but I guess it makes sense.
It does. It's all about tapping into that inherent desire for appreciation. Instead of like manipulating people, you're fulfilling a need they already have.
Huh. So it's not just about being nice, it's more strategic than that.
Yeah, and Carnegie even links it to like avoiding resentment in relationships.
Oh, interesting. How so?
He cites a study, I think it was on runaway wives.
Runaway wives. Okay, this should be good.
And the main reason they gave for leaving was, get this, lack of appreciation.
Wow. Yeah, that'll do it. So just acknowledging people goes a long way.
It really does. And speaking of seeing things from the other person's perspective, which is another big idea, you remember that story about Ralph Waldo Emerson?
Vaguely. Was it the one with the
The calf in the barn. He and his son are trying to get this calf into the barn, right? And they're pushing and pulling, but the calf won't budge.
Right, right. I remember that. So what happened?
Well, they're all focused on what they want, right? But the Irish housemaid comes along, and she figures it out. She understands what the calf wants, a little suckle from its mother while being let in.
Ah, so it's about like meeting the other person's needs, not just our own.
Exactly. And it's not just about, calves and barns. This applies to all sorts of situations. Remember the story about the young lawyer almost lost a Supreme Court case?
No, tell me about it.
So he thinks he knows more than this seasoned judge, right? But then he realizes, wait, what if I'm wrong? And by admitting that possibility, he actually wins the judge's respect.
Huh. That's pretty counterintuitive. So being humble can actually be a strength.
It can. It shows you're open to learning and that you're not arrogant, which leads us to, well, something we all love, praise.
Ah, yes, praise. Who doesn't love a good compliment?
Yeah.
But I'm guessing Carnegie has a specific take on this.
He does. He distinguishes between like flattery, which is all about manipulating someone,
Yeah, I see the difference.
and genuine appreciation, which comes from a place of sincerity, right? It's about focusing on the other person's good qualities.
Okay, I like that. Do you have an example from the book?
Oh yeah, tons. Like remember Stevie Wonder? He was teased a lot as a kid, right? For his blindness, for his exceptional hearing.
Right, right. I remember that. But then there was this teacher.
Exactly. This
Yeah.
teacher comes along who truly appreciated Stevie's unique abilities, and that praise, that recognition, it basically unlocked his potential.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful stuff. So it's not just about making people feel good. It's about empowering them.
It is. And, Carnegie also talks about the importance of remembering and using people's names. Seems simple, right?
Yeah, super simple. But I bet he has a story about it.
Of course. There's this General Motors employee, right? And he always had this negative experience with the cafeteria worker, always scowling.
Okay, I can relate. We've all got those people.
But then one day he makes the effort to learn her name. And that small gesture completely transforms their interaction.
So it's about acknowledging their humanity, not just seeing them as like a function.
Yeah. And it ties back to that desire for significance. We all want to feel like we matter as individuals, not just as cogs in a machine.
Makes you think about those times when you felt, invisible or overlooked, a little recognition goes a long way.
It really does. And it's not just about big gestures. Even small acts of acknowledgement can make a difference.
Totally agree. So I'm starting to see a pattern here. Understanding the other person's perspective, praising sincerely, making them feel important.
You're getting it. And we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more to uncover.
All right, let's keep digging. What else does Carnegie have in store for us?
Well, next up, we got to talk about the art of being a good listener. It's crucial.
Okay, I'm ready to learn. Hit me with some more of those Carnegie gems.
All right, so he tells the story about a guy who's trying to land a major business deal, right? And he's been trying for years, but no luck.
Oh, I feel that. Been there, done that.
Right, but then finally he gets a meeting with the big shot, and instead of launching into a sales pitch,
We listened.
he does. He asks the guy about his hobbies, his family, what he's passionate about. And you know what? The big shot is so impressed by this that he not only gives the guy the deal,
He's blown away.
totally, and it's all because he felt heard. He felt understood. And that created a connection that no sales tactic could ever match.
That's wild. So it's not just about being polite. It's about really tuning into what the other person cares about.
Yeah. And it's not always easy, right? We're all so caught up in our own heads sometimes.
For sure. But I can see how if you can master that skill, it's got to be incredibly valuable.
Absolutely. And, Carnegie uses this example about Barbara Wilson and her daughter. Their relationship was really strained because Barbara was always lecturing, giving orders.
Okay, been there too.
Right. But then Barbara starts to really listen to her daughter, gives her space to talk without interrupting.
Right.
Their relationship completely transforms. It's amazing what can happen when we just shut up and listen.
Sometimes that's the hardest thing to do, you
Yeah.
know. But it makes sense. Okay, so we've got praise, we've got understanding perspectives, we've got listening.
You're getting the hang of this. It's all about putting the other person first, making them feel valued and understood.
Okay, I like it. This is good stuff. But I have a feeling there's even more to come.
Oh, yeah, we're just getting warmed up. We haven't even touched on dealing with mistakes or criticism or how to actually get people to agree with you.
Well, hold on. There's a way to do that. Sign me up. I need to learn this skill.
Well, stay tuned. We'll dive into all of that and more in the next part of our deep dive into how to win friends and influence people.
Can't wait. I'm hooked. All right, back for more. How to win friends and influence people. Last time we ended on a cliffhanger. How do we get people to agree with us? I need all the tips I can get.
Ah, yes, the art of persuasion. But first, before we jump into winning people over, Carnegie tackles something, well, a bit trickier.
Okay, what's that?
Criticism. Even when you mean well, it can really damage relationships.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've both been criticized and been the criticizer, and let's just say it doesn't always go smoothly.
Right, it's tough. But Carnegie suggests instead of directly criticizing someone, you try to call attention to their mistakes indirectly.
Indirectly. That sounds kind of passive-aggressive, doesn't it? How does that work?
Well, he gives this great example. Instead of saying, "You're late again," which, puts people on the defensive,
Yeah, for sure.
you could say something like, "Punctuality is so important in our business. It shows respect for our clients."
Ah, I see. So you're kind of shifting the focus from the person to the principle.
Right. Exactly. It's not about blaming. It's about highlighting the bigger picture.
Okay, that makes sense. And it kind of takes the sting out of it, Makes it less personal.
Right. And Carnegie also talks about, talking about your own mistakes before criticizing someone else.
Oh, yeah, right. Lead by example kind of thing.
Yeah. It's by showing humility, you create a more understanding environment,
Makes sense. So instead of pointing fingers, you're kind of saying, hey, we all mess up sometimes.
Exactly. And that makes people more receptive to hearing how they can improve.
Okay, so indirect criticism, admitting our own mistakes. What other strategies does Carnegie have for, delivering feedback without making enemies?
Well, he also suggests asking questions instead of giving direct orders. So instead of saying, "Do this," you could say, "What do you think about trying this?"
Huh, interesting. So it's more collaborative, less bossy.
Right. It gives people a sense of ownership, makes them feel like they're part of the solution.
Okay, I like that.
What else? He also talks about letting the other person save face. So even when you need to correct someone, you do it in a way that preserves their dignity,
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to feel humiliated, especially at work.
Right. He tells this story about a manager who had to deal with an employee who made a pretty big mistake. But instead of yelling at him in front of everyone,
He took him aside.
he did. And he spoke to him privately with kindness and understanding. He acknowledged that mistakes happen, but he also reassured the guy that he still believed in him.
Ah, that's actually really nice. So it's like you can be firm, but still compassionate.
Exactly. It's about, holding people accountable without crushing their spirit.
Okay, this is all great stuff. But what about those times when someone really messed up and they need to understand the gravity of their actions?
That's a good point. It's a balance, right, between compassion and accountability.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do you know when to be gentle and when to be, well, more direct?
Well, I think it comes down to understanding the person's intentions. Was it a careless mistake, or were they genuinely trying to do the right thing but maybe went about it the wrong way?
Right. There's a difference between like negligence and just, making a bad call.
Exactly. And in those cases, I think it's important to acknowledge their good intentions, but also help them see the consequences of their actions.
Okay, I'm following you. So even in tough situations, there's a way to be both firm and fair.
Exactly. It's not about letting people off the hook. It's about guiding them towards making better choices in the future.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about criticism and how to deliver it effectively. But what about, the flip side? How do we get people to actually buy into our ideas to see things our way?
Ah, yes, the art of persuasion. Carnegie believed that the key is to, and this is so good, make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest.
Okay. So it's not about like forcing our ideas on them. It's about making them want to do what we're suggesting.
Exactly. It's about finding that win-win where everyone feels good about the outcome.
Okay, I like that. But how do we actually do that? Is there like a secret formula?
Well, not a formula, but he does offer some really useful strategies. And surprise, surprise, it starts with praise and honest appreciation.
No way. I'm sensing a theme here.
Uh-huh, right.
Yeah.
But it's true. When people feel valued and respected, they're so much more open to hearing what you have to say.
Okay, that makes sense. So start with the good stuff. And then,
And then Carnegie suggests we call attention to the desired action without arousing resistance. Sounds tricky, right?
yeah, a little bit. How do you like nudge someone without them feeling nudged?
Well, he uses this example of a kid who's not doing their chores. Instead of nagging, which just makes them dig in their heels.
Oh yeah, been there.
Right. You could say something like, I'm so proud of you for being so helpful around the house. Finishing your chores would be a great way to show how responsible you are.
So you're kind of appealing to their desire to be seen in a positive light.
Exactly. And it works with adults too, We all want to live up to our own self-image.
Okay, so it's about framing things in a way that makes the other person feel good about taking action. Makes sense.
Right. And Carnegie also talks about making the other person feel like the idea is theirs. So it's not about you dictating, it's about them feeling like they're part of the process.
Oh, I love that. It's so empowering.
It is. Remember that story about the manager who wanted his team to come up with a solution to a problem? He didn't tell them what to do, he asked for their ideas.
And they came up with something brilliant.
Right. Right. I remember that story. It's amazing how, letting go of control can actually lead to better outcomes.
It's true. Sometimes the best way to lead is to step back and trust the people around you.
Wow. So many nuggets of wisdom in here. I'm starting to think we might need a part 4 to cover it all.
Maybe. But for now, we still got one more part to go. And trust me, there's even more to uncover. Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. Bring on the final part. Okay, we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into how to win friends and influence people. This has been an amazing journey so far.
I know, right? So many insights, so many practical tips.
For sure. And I feel like we're just getting to the heart of it now. Last time we were talking about persuasion, but I'm ready for those secrets to instant likability.
Ah, yes, the million-dollar question. How to make people like you instantly.
Well, Carnegie outlines 6 principles that can really help.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me with those principles.
All right, number 1, and this should sound familiar. Become genuinely interested in other people.
Wait, haven't we talked about this already?
We have, but it's so important, it bears repeating. Carnegie believed this was the foundation of any strong relationship.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. People want to feel seen, heard,
Mhm.
But how do you go beyond just, acting interested?
Well, it starts with being present.
Mhm.
Asking questions, really listening to the answers, trying to understand their perspective. Right, right. Not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Exactly. And principle number 2, this one might surprise you. Smile.
Smile. Seriously, that's it.
It sounds simple, but it's powerful. A genuine smile conveys warmth, openness. It makes you instantly more approachable.
Okay, I could see that. It's like you're disarming people with kindness.
Exactly. And people who smile are just, well, they're more likable. It's contagious, you know?
All right, I'm smiling. What's next?
Principle number 3. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language.
Oh yeah, the name thing. We talked about this earlier. It's amazing how much that matters to people.
It really does. It shows you're paying attention, that you value them as an individual.
Okay, I'm making a mental note to use people's names more often. What else?
Principle number 4. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves.
There it is again. Listening, listening, listening. It seems like the key to, well, to almost everything.
It really is. And it goes beyond just, sitting there quietly. It's about engaging with what they're saying, asking follow-up questions, making them feel heard.
Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here. Make them feel good, make them feel valued, and listen, listen, listen.
You're getting it. All right. Principle number 5. Talk in terms of the other person's interests.
So find common ground. Make them feel like you get them.
Exactly. We're naturally drawn to people who share our interests, our values. It creates a bond, a connection.
Makes sense. Okay, last one. What's number 6?
Make the other person feel important and do it sincerely.
Ah, there it is again. That universal desire for significance.
It all comes back to that, doesn't it? We all crave that feeling of being appreciated, respected. And when you make someone feel important, you're not just, stroking their ego.
Right, it's about acknowledging their worth, their value.
Exactly. And that can have a ripple effect. When people feel good about themselves, they're more likely to be kind, to be generous, to do great things.
Wow, this is powerful stuff. I'm honestly blown away by how simple yet profound these principles are.
That's the beauty of Carnegie's work, isn't it? It's all about human nature and tapping into those fundamental needs we all share.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your insights, your knowledge.
Of course, it's been a pleasure. And I hope our listeners have found this journey as insightful as we have.
I'm sure they have. And if you're listening out there, remember, praise sincerely, listen attentively, and always strive to make the other person feel important. Those are the keys to winning friends and influencing people.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So go out there and make a difference, one genuine interaction at a time.
And on that note, we'll sign off.
Yeah.
Until next time.